Welcome to another piece in this course on William Blake's Songs of Innocence and Experience. Today we will be discussing or we will be reading and exploring, I think, one of the briefer sections of this course, which will be the two poems, The Little Boy Lost and The Little Boy Found in the Songs of Innocence. So this is in the book Songs of Innocence and Experience, showing the two contrary states of the human soul. Throughout this book are several of these lost and found. There's a little girl found, there's a little girl lost, and at the end in the Songs of Experience, there's a little boy lost. That's the famous one, is the one in the end, of the Songs of Experience. But I still want you to read all of this book because I think there's so much going on that Blake is trying to explore here. So again, this is a 2-stanza, 8-line poem. Very short. I do think there, like a lot of things in Blake, there are underlying messages. And this is one of those poems that I think if you read to a 3 or 4-year-old, again, there's just a kind of enjoyment of the sound. And that's probably it. In 8th grade, you could teach this as part of a series of asking them questions about their feelings regarding the relationship to this boy. So just as an example, before we get started, think about if you remember a time, and I can remember a time long ago when you're like 4 years old, 5 years old, and you're at a mall, you're at a park, you're somewhere, and you get separated from your parents, and the feeling you had as a little boy or girl. When you're just kind of lost. I remember once when I was really little, I was like at a mall and I got distracted by something, and I guess my parents went one way. They didn't notice that I went somewhere else. And I'm like in some store as like a 4-year-old, and I'm just looking at, I don't even remember what I'm looking at. I just remember looking up and not seeing my parents, and just like the sense of dread that, and then all of a sudden I started panicking and running around and, have you seen my parents? Again, I was, I think, like 4 years old, or like super little. If you remember that period or that experience, I think this will be more impactful to you. So let me read it again. The first one, The Little Boy Lost. These are 2 poems. We're going to read them one at a time. We'll do a quick converse with verse. Really not much to converse with, in a sense. I think it kind of hits you as a totality pretty quickly. Okay, The Little Boy Lost by William Blake. Father, Father, where are you going? Oh, do not walk so fast. Speak, Father, speak to your little boy, or else I shall be lost. The night was dark, no father was there. The child was wet with dew. The mire was deep, and the child did weep, and away the vapor flew. So what I'm seeing is 2 stanzas, one almost, I think, from the perspective of the child, where either that or the narrator is relaying what he's hearing. But it sounds like, Father, Father, where are you going? Like a little boy is asking this question. Don't walk so fast. It's like he's being left behind. One of the values of reading this as a book is if you read the poem we just read before this, which was The Chimney Sweeper. Well, the beginning of The Chimney Sweeper is, when my mother died, I was very young, and my father sold me while yet my tongue could scarcely cry. Right? So his father sold him into indentured servitude to be a chimney sweeper. So this could be a more abstract metaphorical experience in a concrete image of this boy being lost, but representing just the loss of innocence, or the loss of, not having that kind of protector in your life. And I think that's kind of what's happening here. And then, we get this image of the night was dark, no father was there. So this has a, kind of omniscient perspective all of a sudden. So it goes from the little boy who's lost in the woods. The child was wet with dew. So he's getting, nature is kind of free, causing some dew and some probably discomfort for the child. The mire was deep, and the child did weep. So the child starts crying, and away the vapor flew. Now, what the vapor is, I don't know. What do you think it is? Like, it's something that's the vapor of the soul, the vapor of his life, his innocence. Something is lost here. So it's more than just the little boy being lost. Something else is being lost. But then we get this next poem right after it, The Little Boy Found. So Now look at the imagery between the two. So you have this boy running, in this image. This is the engraving by Blake, and he's running towards something. He's in a dark wood, and he doesn't know what he's running toward. And then you have this image, which is clearly the boy being found. I don't think you have this in the. Yeah. So in the text, you have these angels. You have an angel here as well. And then you have what looks like a Christ-like figure. So let's read this poem very briefly. Little Boy Found by William Blake. The little boy lost in the lonely fen, led by the wandering light, began to cry, but God ever nigh appeared like his father in white. He kissed the child and by the hand led, and to his mother brought, who in sorrow pale through the lonely dale her little boy weeping sought. So now we obviously have the God the Father and God the Father, the Son, the Holy Ghost, Christian Trinity. We have God as the Father, and it even says appeared like his Father in white. And then the Father brings the God the Father brings the little boy back to the mother who's crying because she lost her child. And I really think this is just a simple metaphorical way of Blake expressing the relationship of children to their authority figures, to God. So the goal of this, remember, is methodologically, is to simply read it aloud, and then converse with it. What do you think is, what is a fen, for instance? That's one, question to kind of go through with your students. Whether they know, it doesn't really matter. Ever nigh, that's near. There's things like that you can go through. But again, I think like just a simple discussion about how this feeling of being lost and found, and who's doing the finding. In this case, it's a religious finding versus, a secular person, a human father. It's obviously the experience of losing the father in your life and then gaining the father above you. And I guess I'll end with this, that we know from, Freud and other psychoanalysts and psychologists have talked about, and other poets for a long, have talked about this issue of the feeling, the moment in your life when you realize your father is not God, in a sense, that your father is the first God. I think that's what this is kind of representing in the simplest sense.